My wife texted me while we were sitting shoulder to shoulder on the couch. 3 words that made the noodles turn to rope in my mouth. She isn't me. 9 letters, and the bottom dropped out the way elevators do when the cable sneezes. I tilted my head and tried to make the motion look like a joke. "Where's your phone, hun?" She didn't look away from the TV. "Left it at Harriet's? I'll grab it tomorrow. Can't do anything about it now?" Normally she watched with 2 sets of eyes. One for the movie, one for the endless scroll. Tonight her gaze was pinned to the screen like someone had paid it to stay. "Fair enough," I said, and my voice tried not to sound like it was counting exits. I checked the message again, just to see if my brain would be kinder on a second pass. Sophie, mobile. Our stupid contact nickname. Our private little joke. Nothing funny about it now. Okay, a prank. They know about my anxiety. Maybe Harriet is being Harriet. I typed, "Very funny. Give Soph her phone back tomorrow, okay?" I put the phone face down and made my goofball smile, the one that usually buys me a smile back. The TV washed blue over her glasses. I could see one reflected eye cut in half by the frame. No smile. Minimal chewing. Minimal everything. The phone buzzed. My chest did a small, scared jump. I never hide anything from my wife, much less while we're sharing a couch and a dinner and the dumb comfort of a Friday night movie. I angled the screen toward my thigh. "The girl you're with isn't me." My stomach tried to find a lower floor. "Okay, Harriet. Late. Drop it. Harriet's good?" I asked, aiming casual. "Fun. Noodles. Chew Daria." Eyes pinned. On TV, a bunch of teenagers had jumped off their boat and forgotten to drop the ladder. The realization had just hit them. The water wasn't just water anymore. They're gonna hate themselves about that ladder. I said, "Yeah. Buzz. Harriet is dead. She killed her. Get out." The kind of chill that his hands lifted me to my feet. Sophie tilted her head like a person noticing a weather change. "Where are you going?" "Kitchen, get a drink." I dumped the plate in the sink and braced my hands on either side like the counter would hold me up out of a bad dream. Cold water. Face. It didn't help. The room felt tilted, the air too thick, like the house had developed lungs and I was using its oxygen without permission. "Your drink." She stood in the doorway with my glass of water, my glass from the living room, the one I left on the coffee table. The kitchen light was dimmer and made the water look almost glittered. Not light, something suspended. Her eyes shone flatly behind the lenses. "Have you had much to drink today? I think you're dehydrated." On the table, my plate. The chow mein shifted on its own. Not noodles. Thin dark things undulating like hair in a current. "What did you put in the food?" The words scraped my throat. Her mouth didn't change. She set the water down and stepped closer. I swept the plate and the glass off the counter in one panic motion and ran. The garage door took the slam like a chest. Keys. Pocket. Fumble. The handle rattled behind me. Locks down. My hands weren't my hands. I dropped the keys and found nothing with my fingers. My tongue tasted metal. The overhead lights burned her glasses into coins as she bent toward the driver's side window. The kids on TV were blood and water by now. Sharks circling. The movie kept playing whether you watched or not. Darkness climbed me like a ladder. I woke with my forehead against the steering wheel and a note under the wiper, writing facing in. "Darling, I'm worried. Lock the garage. I'm at Harriet's. Back soon. Stay there. X." Phone. 3 new texts. 1:40. "Tell me you okay." 3:12. "She's here." 6:34. "Sorry about Harriet. Everything okay? Back soon. Stay there. X." I turned the key. The car coughed. I dropped it into drive and pressed. The garage door didn't care. Once. Twice. 3 times. The frame screamed. A line of daylight cracked like a grin. 4. 5. 6. Daylight poured like breath. 7. 8. Once. The hood forced its way through. 9. Legs stood in front of the door. Not Sophie. Still, no flinch. The message was clear. You'll have to go through me. I hesitated. Then I didn't. The world became noise and metal, and a terrible choice made too fast to take back. 30 miles. The engine whined like a scolded dog. The front end sang a song in a key I've never heard a car sing. The windshield held together out of politeness. I left it in a pull-off and walked into woods that didn't want me. Rentalcar.wa. Cash. Different direction. Truck stop coffee. A mirror with someone looking back who had my cheeks and someone else's eyes. No news story. No hit and run. No body. No headline to confess to. At night, I saw the red smear anyway. A shape bent and wrong and crawling upright. Black worms puddling out and back into a body like they were rehearing a role. I woke with my mouth full of copper and my pillow stained. My hair came away by the handful. Nosebleeds forever. A good sign if you want to scare yourself. I told myself I'd drive until I forgave myself. That's not how forgiveness works. It stays in the house you left. The next message found me at a motel where the air conditioner believed in dust. It didn't have a sender. It didn't even have an app. It was just there. Like a pop-up from a part of the phone that shouldn't be able to talk to me. Don't look away. Don't blink. Don't read this out loud. I let the phone sit in my palm until it knew I didn't believe in it. Then I looked. This is Colonel Jacob Wayne of the United States Air Force. If you're reading this, remain calm. Any increase in stress will draw their attention. I laughed once. It came out like a cough. Humor me, it went on. We embedded this into your routine so they wouldn't notice. You think you're fine. You think the past few days were ordinary. That's because they are very good. You are in a simulation. We can't pull you out yet. We can teach you to walk to the edge. My lungs forgot themselves for a second. I had to tell them what to do. Inhale. Exhale. Good, the text said. That's them powering down the automatic. You can breathe manually. Keep reading. Do not blink. A tickle skittered across my scalp. The itch in my elbow arrived with the timing of a prank. The room's low hum stepped closer like a cat. Peripheral movement. A shadow where the curtain meets the wall. A ripple in the ugly painting above the bed. Do not attend to distractions. They will use your weak points. Pets, parents, spouses. Keep reading. We are uploading a counter code. The letters started to look like bugs. Not moving. Just busy with purpose. You will want to swallow. There is a tube. That feeling is real. It is safe to swallow. Do not panic. I swallowed and felt the memory of plastic. Like my tongue had been wearing a leash when I wasn't looking. My eyes burned. Do not blink. We are close. First letter of each bold, italicized word will tell you what to do to unplug. Don't look yet. Keep reading. Eyes front. There were no bold, italicized words. Motel Wi-Fi turns the world into plain text. Almost there, it said. Keep your eyes open. Almost. Upload complete. The sentence ended without a period. For some reason that made my heart move into my throat. Instructions scrolled all at once like the punchline of a magic trick. When the hum drops, count to a number you hate. Stand. Walk to the bathroom. Face the mirror. Do not look at your eyes. Look at your mouth. Say your name once, then say her name twice. Do not blink. If she answers, it is not her. If she knocks, do not open. Walk backward 3 steps. Turn. Leave. The air conditioner sighed. The hum changed key, then ducked out. I counted to a number I've hated since I failed algebra. I stood. The room leaned. I walked anyway. In the bathroom mirror? Me. Not convincing me. Motel me. Face that looks like it belongs to someone who hasn't slept well and is pretending it's a choice. My mouth. I looked at the mouth. I said my name once. Then hers twice. Sophie, Sophie. The mirror fogged at the corners like it had been waiting to hear that. Something tapped. Not on glass. Behind it. The idea of knuckles. Let me in, please. It's cold. I backed up 3 steps. I turned. I left. In the room, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. Finally, don't do what the colonel says. I stared at it until the words arranged themselves into a shape that looked like a trap and also like hope. Who is this? The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, appeared, and then, Harriet. I sat on the carpet. The carpet stared back. Harriet is dead, I said out loud to the air because sometimes reality needs reminding. No reply. Another message slid in from the ghost colonel. They will impersonate. Do not trust. The cool, reasonable tone of a man who has lost too many already. Funny how comfort and indifference can share clothes. The room hummed again. It made a sound like electricity trying not to be a snake. I did what all cowards do. Nothing. I woke in the same room because it's easier than trying to wake up anywhere else. The problem with running is you drag your shadow. My shadow wanted my kitchen back. My couch back. My wife back. The real one. The texts kept arriving like radio static. The colonel with his no-blink gospel. Harriet with her run commands and building codes and little details only the 3 of us would know. One night Harriet sent the Wi-Fi password for her place, the petty misspelling our landlord made on the lease and never corrected. Nobody on earth but us should know that. Then, She Isn't Me wasn't a prank. It was her. She got 5 seconds on my phone before it took the screen. She used them on you. My throat closed quietly and completely the way throats do when they remember a smell that hurt them. Where are you? Home. 1. Our home. She told me to stay. I didn't. I'm sorry. What happened to you? Silence. Then, do you still have the email I sent you 5 years ago? The one with the picture of your bad haircut. The subject line. Tell me. I dug through the forgotten archive. The photo made me snort in spite of myself. The subject line made my eyes sting. You look like a baby eagle, I wrote. A long minute. Then, okay. It's me. I asked the question I hated. Are you alive? A longer minute. Then, mostly. Where's Sophie? Inside. With me. But not like that. The thing wears her. The house helps it. You can get us out if you do not blink. If you do not listen when it's kind. If you keep walking when it begs. The colonel chimed in like the voice of a parent on speakerphone you forgot you'd dialed. If you re-enter the simulation, you will not come back out. Do not try to save her. Save yourself. We can help the rest later. I stared at the screen and thought about the aquarium glow on Sophie's glasses. The way she said dehydrated like a diagnosis. The noodles turning into tiny black eels in my head. I drove home. The house had a new smell. Bleach and oranges. The blinds hung straight as courtroom ties. The couch looked like furniture in a staged home. The TV's reflection watched me from the black. My phone buzzed once in my pocket. I didn't look. Soph. Her voice came from the kitchen. Dinner's hot. I counted to a number I hate. I stepped into the kitchen like a courtroom I knew I'd lose. Chow mein day. 2 plates. The worms only moved when I let them be noodles. She turned and her glasses flashed, and her smile made a shape like care. You look awful. You need water. You need to sit. I'm not thirsty, I said. And the voice that came out of me belonged to someone who had practiced not lying enough to pass. We stood a few feet apart with all our history carefully rolled and placed between us like a rug. Harriet's dead, I said. She blinked like the word didn't mean. That's not funny. She told me the subject line. Of what? You look like a baby eagle. The smile sagged in the wrong place. The shape of the room changed. It's hard to explain how rooms can lean their attention toward you, but once you feel it, you know it. I stepped backward 3 steps. I looked at my mouth in the microwave door. I said my name once. Hers twice. Something in the ceiling made a sound like water trying not to be water. In the hallway, the bathroom door stood open. The mirror was too clean. It had the look of a screen. Don't, she said behind me. Don't go in there. I'm not thirsty, I said again. Harriet texted, you have to not blink. The colonel texted, they will use your feelings. The house whispered a sound like a fork on a plate. The kind of detail that makes people think everything is normal. I walked into the bathroom and faced the mirror and looked at my mouth and said the lines and let my eyes burn. The mirror did not show me. It showed Sophie, not Sophie. And behind her, a room painted in a color my brain didn't have a name for. Tubes. Tables. The suggestion of people breathing because something else remembered. Sophie's face was still. Her eyes found mine and didn't. Don't look at me, she whispered. Look at your mouth. I did. Say my name, she said. Not Sophie. The voice empty and perfect. I said it twice and heard the kind of knocking you get in pipes, inside the walls, inside teeth. Say hers, Sophie said under the other voice, her breath riding in after it like a paper airplane. Harriet. The mirror fogged. Not Sophie smiled like a person auditioning for a kindness. I did not blink. Please, the empty voice said. It's Cole. I stepped backward 3, turned, left. The knocking followed, annoyed, like a neighbor with a broom under the ceiling. In the kitchen, the chow mein squirmed. The water glittered. The house leaned. Stop. Not Sophie said. You're making a scene. When did you leave your phone at Harriet's? I asked. Earlier. What time? About noon. We were together at noon. We're always together, she said, and the edges of her mouth trembled in a way that would have broken me a week ago. I picked up the water and poured it down the sink. It shone in threads like my saliva remembered a tube. I watched it go. Sophie, I said, if you can hear me, be late. The light in the hall flickered. Not Sophie's head turned toward it like a dog hearing a whistle. You hate that, I said. When she's late. She smiled with her teeth and no face. We are on time. I'm not, I said. I walked out of the kitchen and through the living room and into the garage. The door had been replaced. It looked new. It looked hungry. I sat in the driver's seat and closed my eyes and counted to a number I hate, and then another and another. The house knocked like a cop who knows you're home. I didn't blink. In the mirror on the visor, a room that wasn't a room. Not the garage. Not anything. Cold. Lights that don't hum. The whisper of tubes remembering how lungs work. A shape on a table. A hand turned palm up. Sophie. Her mouth didn't move. But I heard it the way you hear your name when the bus pulls away and your mom runs. Be late, she said. The mirror went back to being a mirror and showed me a man I wouldn't hire for anything that mattered. I opened the garage door and the morning came in indifferent and honest. Not Sophie stood in the doorway between house and garage with her head tilted like she loved me in theory. Where are you going? To get you water, I said. It almost smiled the right way. Almost. Don't blink, I told myself, and walked out into the air that didn't know what we'd done to it. I didn't drive far. A corner. A stop sign. A convenience store that has sold the same old gum since the year I learned to lie. I called. Not the colonel. Not the number that said Harriet. The house phone. 3 rings. Click. Dot. The background sound of a place that holds its breath too much. Hello. Harriet. To. Real. Why? Tired. Front door, I said. Now. Shall see me. Be late. A soft laugh. She hates that. She isn't her, I said. I know, she said, and hung up. I left the car idling under a sign that scolded me for leaving cars idling, and ran. Our street looked borrowed from a brochure. I hated it for that. Harriet stood 2 doors down pretending to look at a lost cat flyer with no phone number. Her hair was a mess. She wore my old sweatshirt from college, the one that says wolves in peeling letters. She looked like a friend who had slept 2 hours and not in a row. Ready, she said. No, I said. We walked wrong. Not the sidewalk. Not the center. The wrong place is between. The shadows that don't belong to trees. The strip of curb where cars never park because it makes the math of the block feel off. At our front door, a beat too long, then another. Then I knocked out of rhythm the way the Colonel told me never to enjoy. The house dislikes improvisation. Good. Not Sophie opened it with a smile borrowed from an old photo. There you are, it said. Dinner's cold. We'll reheat, I said. We stepped inside and the house strained to make us comfortable. I could feel it in the way the floorboards leveled. Harriet said nothing and everything. She walked down the hall into the bathroom and faced the mirror. I followed. Not Sophie stayed by the kitchen and watched like a hound at the edge of an invisible fence. Don't blink, Harriet whispered. I know. She looked at her own mouth. Harriet, she said once. Harriet, again. Sophie. The mirror fogged and held. Say his name, she said. She meant me. I said it once. The world made a noise like a fork on a plate again. Louder now, closer. The hum dropped. The lights leaned. The mirror took a breath. Sophie looked back at us. Herself and not herself. Her eyes found Harriet's and flinched. She whispered something I couldn't hear. Not Sophie moved down the hall, slow and sure, the way responsible people move in commercials. Don't, I told it. It tilted its head and let the house hum do the talking. Be late, Harriet said to the mirror. Be late now. Sophie blinked once. Once is all it takes to break rules if you wanted to. The mirror gave. The same give as a chest after a sob. The same give as the garage door at the 5th try. Harriet grabbed her hand. I grabbed Harriet. The house tried to measure us. I made it count wrong. We fell backward onto tile that remembered our feet. 3 people in a bathroom built for one panic. Not Sophie stood in the doorway like a judge with a kind voice. You can't live like this, it said. I can, I said, as long as it makes you late. It smiled without needing to and walked away without footsteps. The lights found their usual hum like a choir at rehearsal. Sophie sat on the edge of the tub and held her face like it might fall off. She cried the way pain cries when it thinks nobody is listening. Harriet held her hair and swore soft like prayer. I stood in the doorway with my hands shaking and my eyes on fire and my throat full of the taste of old plastic. The mirror showed us, and nothing else. I didn't blink for a very long time. We live differently now. We eat at wrong hours. We clap off beat when the microwave beeps. We laugh when the lights flicker on the downbeat. We put a metronome on the counter and set it to a number we hate. We keep the bathroom door propped open with a stack of magazines that don't deserve to hold any door open. We leave water for later. We count when the house tries to count us. Sometimes the Colonel finds a way onto my screen and begs me not to blink. Sometimes I listen. Sometimes I turn the phone face down because it reminds me too much of voices that know everything except us. Sometimes I still see worms. Sometimes noodles are just noodles. I never order chow mein anymore. Sophie makes eggs at midnight and we eat them with hot sauce and laugh at nothing because the sound feels like a receipt we don't owe. Sometimes the door is just a door. Sometimes it breathes. We are learning which nights it will open to a room where tubes are truths, and the air smells like oranges and bleach. When it does, we count and step wrong and pull each other back like people learning to climb. People ask me how we sleep. We don't. Not properly. We doze in shifts. We dream awake. We hold hands under blankets like teenagers and practice not blinking until our eyes learn we mean it. Love used to be promises on calendars. Now it's timing. If you hear a voice from the other side of your mirror using your favorite kindness, count. If you get a text from a number you trust and the words make your stomach look for a lower floor, count. If your house tries to clap on the downbeat, clap late. The people who keep the time hate when we make them wait. If you're looking for us, we're here. We're on the couch at 9 eating eggs we don't deserve yet, letting the show play to an empty room while we listen for the hum to dip and come back. We are very late, and we intend to stay that way. We tried to live like people again, and the house tried to remember how to be a house. Eggs at midnight, water we don't drink, blinds up, Bathroom door propped open by a crooked stack of magazines no one would read on purpose. Harriet slept on the couch the first week because her place felt thinner, easier to reach through. Sophie and I held hands like teenagers and practiced not blinking until our eyes learned what we meant. The Colonel kept writing to me in places words shouldn't be, frozen frames between videos, the ticker at the bottom of a news show. He wanted me to choose the clean way out, the way with rules I didn't write. Harriet wrote back with silence, and with coffee, and with the way she stood in the hallway listening to the hum as if it were a patient you treat by refusing to be impressed. Sometimes I still saw worms in noodles that were only noodles. Sometimes water glittered without help. Sometimes my tongue remembered a tube and I had to tell it to stop. One morning, the mirror gave us a mercy and a threat. I was brushing my teeth on the half-beat, counting to a number I hate between each spit, when Sophie stiffened beside me. She didn't point. She didn't gasp. She said my name like a breath. In the mirror, behind our faces, not the bathroom, not the motel room. A row of tables in a room with the color that doesn't have a name. People on them. Tubes. The hush of machines that don't hum, they count. The camera angle belonged to no one, but it saw us. Sophie reached up slowly, like she was diffusing something, and touched the glass with one finger. It fogged under her skin, even though the air wasn't warm. "Who do you see?" I asked. She swallowed and shook her head once, the motion you make when you refuse to say a name because saying it invites it closer. Harriet stood in the doorway with her arms folded to keep from touching anything. "We can't pull everyone through," she said. "We can pull someone." The mirror flickered. A face surfaced the way a drowned thing would if water loved you. Young, hair stuck to her cheek, eyes open and too dry. The kind of open that comes after blinking stopped being a choice. "Don't," Harriet whispered. To me, or to the room, I couldn't tell. Sophie's finger left a clean arc on the glass. The arc glowed like someone had written with a key. The Colonel's words tried to wrap themselves around my thoughts. Do not re-enter. Do not attempt a rescue. Save yourself. We will handle the rest. Except they never do. People like him never do. They build a door with an instruction manual and call that salvation. I breathed on the half-beat and said the simplest thing in the world. Tonight, 9, we walk. Harriet nodded once, like a metronome giving permission. Sophie didn't nod. She closed her eyes, for the length of one heartbeat, and opened them again. I didn't yell at her for blinking. I want to be a husband more than a student. We made our quiet the way you braid a rope. Metronome in the pocket set to a number we hate. 2 machines in the laundry room disagreeing on purpose. The stairwell that bites yawning instead. Wrong steps. Wrong claps. Wrong lights. When the knot on the blueprint door opened, it did it like a yawn you can't help doing too, wide and shameless. We stepped sideways, all 3 of us, moving between hums. The air cooled and warmed at once. The corridor ate sound and smelled faintly of oranges. The quiet door remembered us and pretended not to. I knocked like a child who never learned his lesson. It opened. The room held the same impossible desks, the same maps that redraw themselves, the same scale that wants to be a clock. And him, of course. The man with my father's grin and no need for it. "You can't keep coming here," he said gently, the way a teacher warns a kid he likes. "We're late," I said. "It hates that." He smiled as if I'd complimented his tie. Harriet set a small metronome on his not desk and wound it to wrong. Then she set another, and another. 12 little hearts refusing to agree. "We're not a cult," she told him, almost kindly. "We're a clog." He considered the word as if trying it on in a mirror that would not flatter him. "You don't understand the cost," he said. "Good news," Sophie said softly. "We pay it anyway." We walked to the mirror that held too many bathrooms. Harriet breathed 2 close notes. I watched the glass for the fog that means yes. It came. A face surfaced. The girl from morning, the one with the 2 dry eyes. "What's your name?" I asked the way you ask a cat to trust you. Her lips didn't move, but the mirror wrote it. A fog line, a straight stroke, a loop. I. Lonnie Dutchfoy. Harriet put her palm to the glass. Be late, Lonnie, she said. Right now. Not Sophie wasn't there to stop us. Something else was. The Colonel's voice arrived in my head with perfect grammar, the tonal calm of a man whose work never stains his hands. Do not. Do not. I pressed my palm to the mirror anyway, warm and cold at once. The give of a chest after a sob. The room shuddered to remind us it's physics, not permission. The man with my father's smile watched as if we were a documentary about hubris. You never read the terms, he said. Nobody does, I said, and pulled. It wasn't a pull. Pull suggests gravity and muscle and a clear sense of sides. This was more like unthreading, like warm gum between fingers, like getting your key back from a machine that insists you never had one. Lonnie fell onto tile that remembered too much. She was lighter than she looked. Maybe memory weighs more than bodies. Her breath hitched wrong. The way breath does when it's just been reminded it has always been manual. She tried to sit up and failed and said, Mom, in a way that shredded my chest. She isn't here, Harriet said softly. You are. The room recalculated. The maps bled and redrew. The scale's needle pointed where numbers aren't. The man put his hands in his pockets like this bored him. You will pay, he said. Not mean. Not loud. Just bored. You always pay. Make us an invoice, I said, and the bravado didn't fit, but I wore it. We backed out wrong, leaving the metronomes arguing, leaving the quarters cooling on plate, leaving the quiet room to count by itself until it didn't want to. In our stairwell, the hum put itself back together like a machine after a bad idea. In our hallway, the light flickered once, and then on purpose. The house tried to remember us and had to work for it. Good. Well, on our tile, Lonnie cried like someone who has learned not to, until the body forgets the rule. We fed her eggs at midnight because eggs at midnight became a sacrament in our house. We gave her sips of water and watched it make sense of her throat. We spoke as if the room charged per word. She slept on our couch the way people sleep after someone pulls them through a mirror. The Colonel wrote to me in the morning in the black space between emails. I see you. Stop. You can't save them all. You will lose more than you keep. Stop. Please. Stop. Dot. I closed the laptop. It reflected my face in a kitchen that enjoys pretending. Lonnie woke in a panic that forgot how to be panicked. She looked at the window, at the blinds, at the doorstop magazines, at the metronome on the counter. She counted under her breath without numbers. She pressed her palm to the fridge like a person checking for a fever. Then she relaxed into herself by inches. What did they tell you? I asked. She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, and the motion had a child in it. Don't blink, she said. Do what you're told. Good girl. I swallowed the taste of plastic. Here we blink, I said. When we choose to, not when they do. She nodded because nodding requires less faith than words. She stayed. Some days the house liked her. Some days it tried to clap when she breathed. On those days we made more noise than one apartment should. Chalk numbers on the stairs, quarters on the plate. Wrong claps, wrong lights, wrong, until the right kind of quiet returned. Not Sophie stopped coming inside. She watched from thresholds. She smiled the tidy smile of someone who believes the math favors them eventually. She waited for us to forget to count. We didn't. The price arrived as boredom and worse. Erasures. Names slipping out of friends' mouths mid-sentence. A barista who had known me for years asking if I'd been in before. The mail carrier double-checking the number on our mailbox. The landlord saying whose place is this again when the rent cashed just fine. I reminded them. They apologized in the voices people use when the apology is for them. Not you. I wrote my name on things I didn't want my name on. I became a coat I had to put on in my own kitchen. Sophie suffered it most. because it loves to erase the person who refuses to be on time. The house forgot her sometimes. The bathroom mirror tried to show me a room without her. I stood behind her and said her name twice and mine once until the glass admitted it had cracked. Harriet learned to sleep anywhere for minutes at a time. Car seat, hallway, on the floor with a metronome ticking near her ear. She counted in the aisle at the grocery store when the music tried to grab her by the throat. She hummed 2 close notes in line at the DMV, and the cameras blinked and forgot to be cameras. We took turns being remembered. Then we made a mistake. We tried to help 2 at once. It wasn't on purpose. The mirror brought 2 faces up as easy as one. A man with the look of a teacher who keeps candy in the desk. A kid with a chipped tooth and the kind of smile that tells you he touches everything he passes. The fog wrote nothing. No names. Their mouths made the shapes of words that hate microphones. "We can do it," I said. Hope talks like that. It doesn't check the math. Harriet's jaw tightened. "1," she said. "2," I said. Sophie said nothing, but she stepped closer to the glass. The glass warmed under her palm like blood. We pulled. 2 isn't a number that likes to behave in that room. The give was slower, stickier, like old tape coming off a wall and bringing paint with it. The maps bled more. The needle hunting wrong. The man fell through first, into our arms, into a room that didn't want him, and then did. He cried quietly like a dad who went in front of the kids. The kid didn't. The quiet room swallowed our wrists like a coin slot you can trick exactly once. The kid's face blurred the way photos do when the camera moves and the shutter insists it didn't. His mouth made my name with no sound. "He's not an exit," the man with my father's smile said. "He's an entrance." I pulled until the tendon sang. Sophie pressed harder until the glass squealed. Harriet cursed the way prayer really sounds. The kid's fingers touched the surface and friction lied, and he slid away like glass was ice, and he was a story I made up to hurt myself. I tasted iron. Sophie leaned her forehead against the mirror like it could bruise for her. Harriet punched the glass once and the quiet room laughed without sound. We backed out without our metronomes. We left the corridor before it could grow teeth. We slammed the stairwell door and let the building forget us to be kind. We sat on the floor among our kitchen chairs like people after a storm. The rescue teacher spoke first. "Thank you," he said, and the words felt too small and too heavy at the same time. "What's your name?" I asked. He blinked like names are expensive. "Mark." "Where were you?" Sophie asked, soft. "A place that smells like oranges," he said. "A room that calls itself quiet. A man who smiles when he doesn't need to. A voice that says don't blink and means don't think." The colonel wrote that night inside a screensaver. "Stop. I am begging you. You are breaking the scaffolding. You will fall." I unplugged the computer. We learned from the mistake like burned hands learn. One at a time. One night at a time. One weight you carry until a shoulder asks for a different one. We wrote the new rule on the back of a receipt and glued it to the metronome. 1. And then the house decided to test the rule. At 9. Knock. Not 3. Not 2. The wrong rhythm we taught ourselves to love. A small polite rap like a neighbor with a pie. Lonnie opened her eyes on the couch and looked at me like a kid watches a parent pretending not to be scared. I opened the door because sometimes you do the wrong thing on purpose to make the math show itself. A woman in her 40s, the kind of face you trust with your kid when you're late, hair back, jacket that says PTA and means it. "Hi," she said. "Sorry, we're collecting for the school, for the drop-off route. Do you have change?" Behind her, 2 other women with clipboards and smiles that belonged to old church parking lots. I said, "We don't do routes here." Her smile thinned without showing effort. "Everyone does routes," she said. Lonnie stood and took 1 step into the hall. Her breath hitched. "Mrs. Kerr," she whispered. "My music teacher." The woman's eyes slid toward her and got thirsty. "Lonnie," she said, and the sound of the name made the air in the hall step closer. Harriet clapped once and wrong. Our hallway didn't like it. The lights tried to find their beat and failed. Mrs. Kerr's smile didn't change. She looked at me as if I had given her a math problem she enjoyed. "We're late," I said. You don't get to be, she said. I closed the door and leaned my forehead against it and counted to a number I hate. The knock didn't come again. We slept badly and woke to eggs and quiet and the Colonel spelling please in the foam of my coffee in a way that made me hate him and like him for trying. Then we did what late people do. We got practical. We started printing cards. Not instructions. Not prayers. Reminders that don't sound like commands. Be late on purpose. Clap wrong. Don't answer names that feel like receipts. If the mirror fogs, look at your mouth. Say hers twice, yours once. If you see oranges, count to the number you hate. If someone knocks like a neighbor, love them later. We left them where people would only find them if they were off schedule, under a chair leg at the DMV, stuck in the spine of a library book nobody loves, between cereal boxes in the wrong aisle, tucked under church bulletins that smelled like coffee and Rizal. Sometimes they came back to us, folded, worn, with someone else's handwriting adding a line. Walk between hums. Don't blink unless you're choosing to. Eat eggs at midnight. The house hates crowds. It left us alone more often when it knew strangers might be watching through us. Not Sophie stayed at the edges like weather. Sometimes I saw her reflection where it couldn't be. A window in a store I wasn't near. The chrome of a car that didn't belong in our county. We met eyes in the glass, and she smiled like the math still favored her eventually. Maybe it does. Maybe that's the point. Maybe victory is the wrong word and the right one is nuisance. On a Sunday afternoon that tasted like laundry, Sophie fell asleep with her feet in my lap and Harriet read a book out loud because the room liked the sound. Lonnie and Mark argued about whether cilantro tastes like soap. The metronome ticked wrong on purpose and the apartment didn't fight it. The mirror in the bathroom fogged once and cleared without offering anyone. It's allowed to choose too. My phone buzzed with a message from a number I didn't recognize. The first letter of each bold word spells open your eyes. I laughed. It came out like a cough. I wrote back without looking at the sender. I already did. I put the phone face down. I watched my wife breathe like you watch weather move over water. I watched Harriet underline a sentence she wanted to remember later. I watched Lonnie and Mark bicker like they had earned the right to be bored. At 9, we clapped once and wrong. The stairwell yawned instead of biting. The door that isn't on a blueprint forgot to be interesting. We ate eggs we didn't deserve yet and laughed at nothing for a long time. We were very late. We intend to stay that way. Weeks passed. Not safe. Just lived. We taught the apartment our rhythm and it forgot to punish us for a while. That's what mercy looks like here. Boredom with receipts. Then the letters started. A pale envelope from the hoe. Route compliance audit. 9:00 p.m. Laundry level. The words looked like rules dressed as dessert. Another notice under our door. Weighing. Cooperation required. The font smiled with its teeth. Mrs. Reynolds slid her own copy under our mat with a sticky note that said only, clog. At noon, I flipped past a weather channel and the emergency beep landed in my chest. The Colonel's face arrived in the lower third, like a miracle sold on TV. No insignia, no rank on screen, just a calm mouth and the same sermon. Don't blink, he said without sound. And the captions did the praying for him. Don't let them take your breath. Keep your eyes on me. You are. I turned the TV off. The room kept the message anyway. Words don't need devices once you've let them in. We planned. Not a battle. Late people don't win battles. We drift. We gum. We show up 7 minutes after the kind of 9 they love. We told the building it was potluck at 9:07. No flyers, no texts. Only the kind of talking you do when the hallway light hum drops and neighbors lean in. Bring one wrong thing. A metronome. A flashlight. A radio stuck between stations. A pocket full of quarters. A voice that can hold 2 notes almost the same. At 8:50 we laid out paper plates and stubborn smiles. At 8:55 the stairwell that bites yawned like a bored god. At 8:59 a quiet door opened because it won't learn our patience. We didn't go in. We waited on the half-beat. We waited until the potluck arrived. 1 by 1, 2s by 2s. The coin man with his plate already ringing. The teenager chalking wrong numbers on the floor like she was daring it to grate her. The night nurse with a white noise unit tucked under her arm like a baby that knows better than to cry. Mrs. Reynolds with 12 little metronomes and a clipboard that said volunteer in cheerful letters as if cheerfulness were a weapon. Neighbors I barely knew slid into place like a cord. A mail carrier who kept misplacing our names. A barista who didn't recognize me until I said late, and then she smiled. A teacher I'd never met with candy in his pocket and a look in his eyes that said he'd learned about tubes without wanting to. 9 o'clock. Nothing moved. We all exhaled, then began. Claps soft beat, never together. 100 little no's that don't require permission. Radios between stations, the kind of static that makes music jealous. Quarters on plates at the wrong seconds. Humming 2 notes the way patients learn to own their lungs. Metronomes clicking in 12 different languages of refusal. The quiet door tried to be impressive. It breathed inward like a stage entrance. The man with my father's grin waited at the podium that isn't. He wore no uniform, only the assurance of people who have never needed one. "You've made a clog," he said. "Congratulations." "We made a neighborhood," Harriet answered. He looked past us toward the stairwell. He never argues with people, only with math. "Weighing proceeds," he said, and the scale that wants to be a clock and a compass at once lifted its needle like a threat that prefers to be polite. "We brought our own units," Mrs. Reynolds said, and set her dozen metronomes on his desk the way people set casseroles down in the church basement. Tick, tack, tuck, wrong. I felt the pulse start low in my ribs, the accounting you can pretend not to feel if you don't know where to look. It wants hours. It wants agreements. It wants breath we signed over by answering on time for years. "We'll pay," I said, before any of them could, before my wife could hand away anything soft. "We'll pay in friction. We'll pay in drift. We'll pay in the boredom it costs you to keep rewriting our names." He tilted his head like he discovered a new species and wished it hadn't learned to hide. "That currency is slow," he said. "Good," I said. "We're late." The door mirror warmed under someone else's hand. In the glass, a kid's face surfaced, the chipped tooth, the smile that touches everything. We had failed him once. He looked at us from a room with no color name and made a word with his mouth that wasn't my name. It was please. One at a time, we had written. The receipt on the metronome said 1. I broke the receipt. On my account, I told no one and everyone. When the hum drops. Radios between stations, metronomes stubborn, our neighbors' laughter like something sacred in another religion. The hum in the walls took a breath and forgot its pitch. Now. We didn't pull this time. We blinked. All at once. On purpose. 100 eyes. Choosing to close. Not a flinch. Not fear. A blink that says my body is mine. A blink that says I don't need you to count for me. The quiet room hated that. It wants devotion. It wants the kind of stare you give a train schedule. It wants pupils pinned like butterflies it swears it will release later. We broke the posture it prizes. The mirror sighed like a lake after a hot day. The kid tumbled through with less fight than gravity should allow. He hit tile and bounced laughter into the hallway without being sure why. The crowd made the sort of sound people make when a team wins on a last-second lucky thing. Not heroic. Messy. Human. The man with my father's smile did not frown. He never frowns. He simply checked his watch the way people do when the meeting went long, and the car will be late, and the dinner reservation won't hold. You will pay, he said again. Friendly. Bored. Inevitable. Invoice us, Mrs. Reynolds said, already picking up her metronomes like leftovers. We backed out. Not quickly. Politely. The way guests leave a home they've only tolerated for a holiday. The door tried to be interesting. The stairwell tried to bite. The building remembered its hours to gum for another night. Back upstairs. Eggs at 9:22. Kids sitting on counters, quarters on a plate. Chalk under fingernails, laughter that refused to beat. Lonnie taught the kid with the chipped tooth how to count between hums. Mark sat with the night nurse and wordlessly held her hand when her eyes went glassy, and her breath decided to be someone else. Sophie leaned into me with a kind of tired that isn't defeat. "They'll erase us more," she said. "I know. It'll hurt. I know. Will you be here when I forget to know you?" "As long as the room lets me," I said. "And when it doesn't, I'll clap wrong until it does." I checked the window because habit is a kind of prayer. No orange. No beacons. The street looked like it had decided to behave out of spite. The colonel found the only space he had left, a single push notification that didn't come from any app. "You can't keep doing this. Please." I typed back on a blank screen. "We can't stop. We can be late." No reply. I don't think he can see answers. I hope he can feel them. The cost came like we expected. Emails bounced even when the address was right. Bank statements addressed to occupant. A cop at our door asking if we knew the people who lived here. A doctor looking straight at Sophie and calling her Samantha. My own name sliding off tongues and puddling on floors. We put sticky notes on the fridge with our names in black marker and little drawings only we would add. Wolves. A metronome. Eggs. A chipped tooth. We said them out loud like grace. If you walk into our place at 9, you'll think the party never starts. You'll think you missed it. Then you'll notice we're all doing something too small to be a ritual, and you'll understand we're making time spend itself. Sometimes I still see my father's grin in reflective glass on buildings that think highly of themselves. Sometimes not Sophie stands across the street looking like a memory written by someone who didn't know us. Sometimes the door opens and pretends to be merciful. Sometimes we let it. Most nights, we don't. Most nights, we sit on the floor and tell the new ones the rules that aren't rules. That feel like telling a body it can be a body again? Be late on purpose. Clap wrong. Walk between hums. Don't answer names that come with terms. Say hers twice, yours once. Blink when you choose. Eat eggs at midnight if it makes you laugh. If oranges whisper, count to the number you hate. If a door asks nicely, love someone instead. The door will always open. That's its job. Our job is to make it wait. Sometimes I dream the quiet room finally gets bored of us. It closes, locks, wishes us luck, finds softer prey. Sometimes I dream we're the ones who get bored first. We stop the little wars. Let the hums have us. Let the schedule carry us like a river that believes it's kind. Then Sophie's foot finds mine under the blanket, and Harriet drops a quarter and Lonnie laughs at something only she finds funny, and the kid claps on the wrong beat and Mrs. Reynolds' chair drags 6 inches and back in my head. Boredom is how they win. Annoyance is how we live. Tonight at 9, we'll be very late again. If you're lost between a mirror and a mouth, if a stranger knocks like a neighbor and offers a root, if a colonel begs you to be clean when your love is messy, you know where to find us. Walk the quiet. Blink when you choose. We'll hold the door, on our time, and make the clocks count us one breath at a time until they're tired. We are the delay they can't budget for. We intend to stay that way.